What's going on, guys? Garrett DMG here, back with a video. So I got some important news for you all. We all know, some of you know, the time is running short, okay? People have been saying that the Christ is on his way to make his return. But here's the thing that people don't understand, is that first he's going to come for his church, okay? And now those are the followers of Christ. They're going to be harpazoed up into the sky with him. Okay? And then in that moment, we'll be up there with him, but then we'll descend down with him. And it will become the Great Tribulation in that 7-year span. But it hasn't taken place yet. It's going to take place on his third day, technically, when he rises. But on that second day, which we're in right now, he's knocking at the door. He's close. We don't know exactly when he'll come, but we have an idea into the time zone on when. Because if you think about it, it said that he rose on the third day. But on that third day, he rose early. He rose at 3 a.m. Okay? So, with that being said, if you look at the timeline, Jesus Christ operated around 30 AD, right? That's when he was crucified. So then one day for him is 1,000 years. So you get 1030 AD in that one day. So that 1,000-year span, it jumps. Alright? So people were doubting for years that Jesus wasn't going to come. People were doubting for years, you know what I mean? But little did they know, it wasn't that 1,000-year period, you know what I mean, for the day. So then you got the second coming, or the second day. Sorry. And then you got the other 1,000 years that passed. So now that would bring us from 1030 AD into 2030. Okay? 2030 hasn't obviously happened yet. But before the third day, and in the second day, he rose early. Okay? He wasn't just, I'll wake up at 10 a.m. type of guy. He was, I'll get up at 3 a.m. type of guy. You know what I mean? So he was on that type time. So with that being said, it even says in the Bible, you'll know when he's near the door, right? You'll know. You'll know he's near the door because of the signs. The wars, the rumors of wars, the nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdom. And then the final one, which I think is very, very, it's kind of the worst one in my opinion. For many will come in his name claiming they are the Christ, and they'll lead many astray. Many. Maybe even me, if I don't follow right. You know what I mean? So it's like, you gotta be very discernful in this time and day and age nowadays. Really careful. With AI, with all this false deceptions and narratives, you have to be on your A game. You have to get rid of all worldly effects. You have to get rid of all worldly desires, all temporary fixations and temptations. Get rid of it all. It's not worth it. It's not eternal. It won't help you. Okay? I want to keep you all sharp on this because you know why? I was a failed Christian. I was supposed to be in my early years. Technically it still is my early years because I'm in my mid to late 20s. But I lived a very sinful life. Okay, I didn't really care much. I still don't, kind of. I still have a lot of rough around the edges I gotta clean up. But I've been working on myself. I'm trying to prepare for Christ. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get myself spiritually aligned. So then this way, when the divine does come, I'm aligned with the divinity. And that's what you're doing. You're positioning. You gotta position. Okay? And with that being said, with the world that we're living in today, you really have to be discernful on where your spirit and soul is aligned with. That's in music, that's in culture, that's in media, that's in every single factor of your life that you can possibly think about. I know it sounds crazy, but it's the truth. Okay? So, a lot of people thought, oh, Christ ain't coming, these infidels. Christ ain't coming, but little did they know the 1,000-year jump day to day. Okay? So that's what I'm saying here. A lot of people didn't realize that, me included. But I had to do my research and I had to do my discernment. Because throughout my life, I was always agnostic, but I never entirely rejected the idea of Christ and his sacrifice overall. I always thought it was an interesting story. But then as time went on, I sort of figured out that there is a lot in this world that leans into the fruition of what Christ had predicted all those years ago as time went on. And I'm talking about my relationships, my personal encounters in life, my personal experiences. I've seen it. COVID definitely really proved it to me. But like I said, the trials are near. You know what I mean? And we've already been through them, from what it seems. With the wars, the rumors of wars, the kingdom rising against kingdom, the great falling away of the church, so they say. Honestly, I always thought it was the great falling away of humanity, where humans just don't usually care about the traditions that's prevailed them forward. And we're seeing a lot of that today, given the social media and the social standards that we're faced against today. And a lot of other outside factors that's ruined that, like transgenderism and outside influences that's ruined the manifestation of our traditions that we held value and close, near, dear to our hearts, that's prevailed humanity nowhere but forward. Now we're now questioning that. To me, that's a great falling away, okay? That's a great falling away of the human existence in the mind, to me. Doing things that necessarily we never usually do, okay? And now I'm not trying to sound resentful or hateful, or example in condemnation. What I'm saying here is that prophecy is being fulfilled in front of our faces, and nobody is seeing it. Nobody is seeing it. Okay, so we have to be aware, we have to be ready, and we have to position ourselves, alignment, and enlightenment, because honestly, this journey for me, it's actually been pretty enlightening to me. It really has. Like, I'm not spewing any bull here, you know what I mean? But it's the truth. You have to have that serene divinity within oneself in order to align with, the divine. But in order to do that, you have to sacrifice that which you love. You have to sacrifice that which you are. Because at the end of the day, everything through you that's good is through Christ. Based on, the lore. So it's like you have to hold that close when you're following these rules and guidelines. So that's what I'm saying. In this narrative on how the timeline is positioned, within those 1,000 years, a day to the Christ, And that blew my mind. That revelation really blew my mind because it makes sense. Time works differently for him compared to us. It makes total sense. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of people could just say, oh, well, maybe they're delaying the inevitable to consume their ignorance. Alright, arguable. But, like I said, prophecy's been fulfilling in front of our faces. Okay? It's been fulfilling in front of our faces. Rivers are drying up. Wars against wars. Nation against nation. Wars and rumors of wars, you know what I mean? This stuff is happening right in front of our face. So who are we to ignore it as humanity, That's the way I look at it. So it's like, you can't take this lightly, guys. I recommend highly that you start to follow the Christ, that you start to align yourself spiritually. Because not only is it important to the Christ, but it's important for you. And that's the main thing about this topic here. And that's what I wanted to get into. So, I mean, I could be totally wrong depending on time frames, but it seems like he's going to come for his church first. And then he'll rule on that third day. But in that third day, it's not just going to be a day, it's going to be a period of 7 years. And notice that the 7 years mirrors the 7 days in the beginning of Genesis 1, when he made heaven and earth. Right? So it all connects. And in a way, it kind of makes me think, is it like one big time loop? Because think about it. He's coming down to collect his church to build this new world. To to advance this new world to come. So in a way, he's kind of repeating history, if you think about it, because he's using those 7 years in that great tribulation to undo what's been done. You know what I mean? As Kamala Harris would say, as funny as she is, to be unburdened by what has been. But it's true. It's true, though. He's come to unburden us by what has been. And by doing that, ensues the great tribulation of the 7-year jump. You know what I mean? So it makes total sense here, you know what I mean? And also, the time waited for Christ was because of his church. He wanted his people to catch up, you know? And he wanted to give us that grace. He wanted to give us that grace and endurance. And he's all the right to do so, and he's all powerful to do so. You know what I mean? He's all the better to do so. The more the merrier. And that's why I'm making this video. You know, I want to influence anybody who can, get closer to the Christ and align themselves definitively. You know what I mean? That means getting rid of fixations, temptations. They're all finite. Everything in this world is finite. I sound like Thanos, but its resources finite. Its ideology's finite. Its false relationships finite. Its false doctrines finite. Everything on this earth is so finite, except for the eternal, right? The eternal. Your soul. What's on the inside, right? Because the way a spirit's been hurt will always last for eternity, right? So you got to be really careful on how you condone your soul thus forward, because the way the world is turned to be, noticeably, it's become chronologically instated in the prophecy, believe it or not. And a lot of men can sit there and say, oh well, if man wasn't there, then history didn't happen. But God argues that, and he challenges that in a great, great way. And I think that's a big reason as to why, logically, worldly ideologies tend to fall away from the narrative of God's logic. So that's the thing that you got to really take away here, guys, is that this ain't just some fairy tale. It's not some corner store fable that you'd buy at the corner store. This is prophecy, okay? And it's been repeated time and time again. It's been instated in the commandments. And also you got to ask yourself, why would they bear false witness, right? Naturally. Why would they bear false witness to what's to come and what's unfulfilling before us now? Am I correct? Right. So, with that being said, you have to stay close to the commandments. You have to keep the commandments, and you have to stay close to the Word. Okay? And I know it sounds traditional, I know it sounds cliche, but it's the truth, honestly. We're humans on this earth. We have a temporary time span, right? And we're in the confines of time, space, and matter. Okay? Jesus Christ, the Lord himself, the Lamb, the Goat, the Alpha and Omega, he's outside. When you say Alpha and Omega, you're outside of time, space, and matter. Can you even fathom that? You can't even fathom it. Okay? I always see a lot of people saying that they can fathom God's power. You can't fathom the unpredictable. You can't fathom the untapped, the unmapped. You can't fathom the inevitable eternity that's before you. You can't. You cannot. Okay? And I've even tried to. I think that's what birthed a lot of atheists, in my opinion. Because the ideology of an atheist is somebody who's locked in within the confines of time, space, and matter. Okay? It's three things of false indoctrination in this existence that's forced us to become this manifestation of just physical materialism. Okay? And it's departed us from the spiritual. And so, with that being said, a lot of the prophecy's been fulfilled due to that separation factor. Okay? Because remember, from atheism to Christian, or Christianity, you're separating the physical from the material, from the logical and the physical realm to the logical and the eternal realm. Correct? So that's what's going on here. Okay? Remember what they say, the eyes see a lot more than just what's in front? That's what's the idea here. Okay? So just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not around you. Just like a smell if somebody farts. You can't see it, but you could smell it. You know what I mean? Or just like a good spray of perfume or cologne. You can't see it, but you can smell it and it makes you feel good. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. It's the same thing in sight, sound, senses, all the six senses. I believe the six senses is our way of connecting to the higher spirit. There's a lot in the confines of what a human being entails in the physical realm that connects to the eternal existence. And that's something that I figured out within the confines of my time here on Earth. But like I said, I'm still reading the Bible. I'm still a new Christian. I don't know everything. I'm just talking to you guys about the logic that I found here on Earth in my time versus the prophecy and the stuff that I've come to learn as a New Age Christian today. So, with that being said, I truly believe that this is the end times. I truly believe it. Because it said that the end times is going to be a lot like the days of Noah. You know what I mean? And the days of Noah, if you go back and actually read that, he's not just some old man, oh, we must build an ark! We must build an ark! No. He's not some crazy Looney Tune. The stuff that he's seen in real life was crazy. I mean, during his day, do you want to know what was... I mean, you probably already know what was going on. But to just give you a little jog of memory, this man was walking around while angels was reproducing with humans. Okay? Let me back this up really quick, because even me, it's hard for me to even, fathom this. This man existed around the time when angels were among the earth, and they were reproducing with humans. Okay? Angels were reproducing with humans. That is just mind-blowing to me, honestly. The fact that something so eternal can manifest into a physical being and create something of existence. That's just, it's been unheard of throughout the whole time I've been a Christian and that I've known about it. I'd never understood the ideology behind that, but as I broke it down and as I did a little bit more research, it's unbelievable. Just to fathom what was going on in the days of Noah is incredible. And what I mean is, it's just unbelievable. The fact that you had angelic manifestations mating and reproducing with humans. I mean, do you hear my sentences here? It's just unbelievable. You know what I mean? But it happened. Because look at Gilgamesh. You know what I mean? Look at David and Goliath. Look at Goliath himself. I'm pretty sure that guy was a Nephilim. Because he was literally a giant. And there's been history reported time and time again that giants did exist back then. That there was some form of human beyond of what is today in our design. So it really makes you wonder. I mean, even Charles Darwin confirms this, with his theory of evolution, which was just a theory. Because honestly, it was into something much more integrated, much more bigger than that. So that's what I'm saying. When you look back in history and you sort of decipher what's been recorded and what's been known, and you still keep those 10 commandments, they didn't bear false witness. That's the main thing, honestly, in the credibility of the physical world. But the rest is still eternal and spiritual, as far as the commandments follow through and everything. So that's what the takeaway is here. The fact that in the days of Noah, times were incredible, unbelievable, unfathomable. Same as today, right? So that's what I'm saying. You can't really decipher much from the past from the future because we're destined to repeat it. We're on a loop. Okay? We're on a loop. And honestly, that's the circle of life. Naturally. And doing that research and reading the days of Noah, times were crazy. Times were crazy. I mean, just there is existence of all forms of life. And that's why the Lord had to come down and make that final stand down. You know what I mean? Because there was just so much going on. There was so much sin in the world. You know, there was so much occupancy where it had to cancel itself out. You know what I mean? And it's just mind-blowing, man. You had these little angelic beings coming down, descending, and they were mating with humans. And they created these beings called Nephilim. Okay? And they were like these beings of just eternal existence. You know what I mean? And they walked around. You know, they existed. And I think they even had offspring too, I believe. Somebody correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I think I was finding out about this like a couple days ago. I think the Nephilim even reproduced, and they had offspring. So it's kind of pretty interesting, like what this prophetic timeline really entails here, because like I said, once Christ descends, collects his church, a lot of the stuff that's outwardly is going to come back. Okay? So that's the main takeaway as far as the third day goes in that 7-year tribulation. You know, there's going to be a lot of strange sights. There's going to be a lot of unbelievable things taking fruition. And it's going to be one heck of a ride, you guys. You know, whether I'm personally harpazoed or not, I don't know. But this ideology of what has been during the days of Noah is just incredible to me. It's incredible. And honestly, like, it sort of explains a lot. It explains a lot about the world, and it explains a lot about our existence as a whole. But like I said, guys, this is going to be something crazy. This is going to be something unheard of, as far as something along the lines of a rapture, and along the lines of a pre-tribulation, pre-trib rapture, or whatever you call it. But yeah, I figured I'd get on here and just share that, because it's crazy. It's really crazy. But at the same time, it makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, all those years ago, all those centuries ago, you know, it's kind of hard to sit there and decipher what really happened in that time. And we all know history wasn't as accurate as we think it is, because look at how much is coming to fruition today that we didn't know about. You know what I mean? So that's just a little food for thought for you guys. I just figured I'd come on here and just show you how much obscurity there was back then, and how much it relegates to today, and how much it connects to now. But yeah, you should definitely get closer to the Lord, and definitely try to repent and practice repentance, and try to become as righteous as possible to align with the divine spirit. But that's the video, guys.